My wife cheated with her boss, and now she's trying to steal our house and $250, $0 inheritance. I never suspected a thing until I found her secretly signing legal papers behind my back. Hello, everyone. Dear listeners, please share your thoughts in the comments section below. And don't forget to like, share, and subscribe. Now, let's begin the video. Using a throwaway for obvious reasons, with certain specifics modified to preserve anonymity. I never thought I'd be the guy to catch his wife cheating, especially not like this. Honestly, I thought Sarah and I had a good thing going. We'd been married for 8 years, and yeah, we had our ups and downs like any couple, but I never suspected she'd be capable of doing something so cold, so calculated. The first sign that something was off was subtle, little things, really. She started coming home later than usual, claiming work was hectic, but I could see the flicker of guilt behind her eyes every time I asked. She'd brush me off, say I was overthinking or that I was paranoid. That should have been my first warning, but I was blinded by love, or maybe just complacency. Then came the night I found her phone. I was looking for my own phone charger and noticed a series of texts that didn't sit right. They were from some guy named Mark, her boss, I later learned, and the messages were flirty, suggestive, and downright inappropriate. Things like "can't wait to see you tonight" and "had a tough day, need your comfort." I felt my stomach drop. My wife, my partner, was telling her boss she needed comfort. That was the first real crack in the perfect image I had of us. I started digging through her emails and social media accounts the next day, trying to piece together what was really happening. What I uncovered was worse than I imagined. There were receipts for hotel bookings, covert messages on her private email that she thought I wouldn't find, and even a hidden folder full of photos, mostly just her, but some of her and Mark, in what I can only describe as compromising situations. It was obvious they'd been seeing each other behind my back for months. The worst part, she lied to my face every time I confronted her about being distant or acting strange. Sarah, my wife, who always prided herself on her honesty, was now a complete stranger. She'd tell me it was just work stress, that Mark was just a friend, even when I found her sneaking out at night. I felt betrayed, humiliated, and furious all at once. But what really tore me apart was realizing she was planning something even darker. I caught her signing legal papers when she thought I wasn't home. At first, I thought she was trying to refinance or do some minor legal work, but then I saw the documents. She was trying to transfer ownership of our house into her name alone, and she was also trying to access our $250, $0 inheritance that I was supposed to get when my grandfather passed away last year. I couldn't believe what I was seeing. She was trying to steal everything we had built together. It was like she was planning to run off with Mark and leave me with nothing, including my home and money that should have been ours. I was numb, honestly. I felt like I'd been punched in the gut. My mind was racing, trying to process how someone I loved and trusted could turn into this manipulative, greedy stranger. I started thinking about all the moments I missed, all the signs I ignored, and how I was so blind to what she was really capable of. I didn't sleep that night. Instead, I sat in the dark, staring at the evidence I'd uncovered, feeling a mix of heartbreak and rage. I knew I had to do something. I couldn't let her get away with this. I just didn't know what the hell to do next, but I knew it was going to change everything. The next morning, I woke up with a pounding headache and a sinking feeling in my chest. I couldn't shake the image of her signing those papers, her smug face when she thought she was pulling one over on me. I knew I needed a plan, but I wasn't exactly sure where to start. I spent the day gathering everything I could find: screenshots of messages, copies of the legal documents, bank statements, and her email correspondence. I had to be meticulous. I couldn't afford to miss a detail or let her get ahead of me. I decided I needed to confront her face to face, but I also knew I had to be strategic about it. I didn't want her to get wind of my suspicions before I had all my ducks in a row. I waited until she came home that evening, pretending everything was normal. She strutted in with that bitchy smirk she always wore when she thought she was in control. I could see her trying to act innocent, like I was just overreacting. She threw on a fake smile and flopped onto the couch, asking how my day was. I kept my cool, acting like I hadn't uncovered anything yet. Finally, I told her I needed to talk. Her face froze for a split second, then she put on her typical dismissive attitude. "What's wrong, honey? Are you upset about something?" she asked, her tone dripping with false concern. I pulled out the printouts and digital files I'd been collecting. I laid everything out on the coffee table, her secret emails, the legal papers, the bank statements. Her eyes widened in shock, then quickly hardened. She tried to gaslight me right away, saying I must have misunderstood, that I was paranoid, that she loved me and would never do anything to hurt me. She laughed nervously, brushing it off as if I was overreacting. "You're imagining things," she said. "You're just stressed out, that's all." But I wasn't buying it. I told her I knew everything: the affair, the legal plans, the money. Her face turned red with rage. She started yelling, calling me crazy, accusing me of spying on her, of being insecure. She claimed I was just jealous of her success at work and that Mark was just a friend, that I was making a big deal out of nothing. I couldn't believe her lies. The way she looked at me with such contempt, like I was some fool she was trying to manipulate. I felt a mixture of disgust and heartbreak. I'd always thought she was the one, the person I could trust with everything. Now I saw her for what she really was, a manipulative, selfish woman who was willing to destroy our life together for her own gain. I told her I was done listening to her bullshit, and that I had enough evidence to take legal action if she kept lying. She scoffed, then stormed out of the room, slamming the door behind her. That night, I felt like I'd been punched in the gut 1,000 times. The betrayal cut so deep I didn't know if I'd ever recover from it. I kept replaying her words, her lies, her sneers. I was furious at her, but also devastated. I started questioning everything: our past, our memories, the future I'd envisioned. How could she do this? How could she turn my trust into this nightmare? I wanted to believe that I could get past it, that somehow I could fix this, but deep down I knew the damage was done. She had been planning her escape, and I was just realizing it too late. The thought that she might actually succeed in stealing our house and the inheritance made my blood boil. I promised myself I wouldn't let her get away with it. I'd find a way to fight back, no matter what it took. Over the next few days, I threw myself into action. I knew I couldn't just confront her and hope she'd come clean. She was too good at lying, too manipulative. I needed facts, legal advice, and a plan. First, I contacted a lawyer, someone I found through a recommendation. I explained everything from the affair to the legal documents she'd signed in secret. The lawyer was cold but professional, telling me I had a solid case to challenge her attempt to transfer the house and claim the inheritance. That was a small victory, but I knew she wouldn't go down without a fight. Meanwhile, I started digging into her financial activities more deeply. I got access to her emails and bank accounts, and I found even more proof of her plans. She'd been secretly transferring money into accounts she set up under fake names, probably to hide her assets. She'd also been meeting with a real estate lawyer behind my back, trying to figure out how to legally take ownership of the house. Every new piece of evidence made my stomach churn with anger. She was cunning, relentless, and frankly, downright ruthless. I also hired a private investigator. I didn't want to believe she was capable of such betrayal, but I needed to know exactly what she was up to. The Pies reports confirmed my suspicions. She was meeting with Mark regularly, sometimes late at night, and was even trying to get a loan under her name to fund her escape. It was clear she was planning to leave me, take everything, and start fresh with Mark. The thought of her leaving with my house and that inheritance made my blood boil. I'd worked my whole life for that money and that house. She was trying to take it all away from me. One of the most shocking moments came when I found out she had already signed legal papers transferring ownership of the house into her name. She hidden the documents in a safe deposit box, thinking I'd never find them. The papers were almost ready to be filed, and she was just waiting for the right moment. I felt like I'd been punched in the stomach all over again. How could she be so cold, so calculating? The woman I loved, the woman I married, was now a stranger trying to steal everything I had. The feeling of betrayal was overwhelming, and I knew I had to act fast before she finalized her plans. That's when I decided I had to confront her again, this time with everything laid out on the table, backed by legal counsel, and with the evidence in hand. I set up a meeting at our house, telling her I wanted to talk. She showed up with that dismissive attitude, trying to act like everything was fine. I didn't hold back. I threw the evidence on the table, told her I knew about the affair, the legal documents, the money transfers, everything. Her face twisted into a mixture of anger and panic, but she tried to deny everything, claiming I was delusional, that I was trying to ruin her. I didn't let her get away with it. I told her I was going to take legal action to stop her from transferring the house and claiming the inheritance. I told her I'd go to the authorities if I had to. Her eyes flashed with fury, but I could see the cracks in her facade. She started yelling, calling me controlling, insecure, and even a little crazy. She said I was ruining everything, that I was just jealous of her success and her relationship with Mark. But I knew the truth now, and there was no way I was going to let her get away with it. I was done being the victim. It was time to fight back hard. The confrontation left me shaken, but it also clarified my next steps. I was done playing nice. I realized I had to get ahead of her plans if I was going to stop her from stealing everything I'd worked for. I called my lawyer again, told him everything I uncovered, and asked him to file an emergency injunction to freeze any legal transfers of the house and prevent her from accessing the inheritance. The lawyer moved quickly, warning me that Sarah's next move might be to try to sell or mortgage the house before I could stop her. That night I stayed up late, going through every document, every email, every message I'd saved. I wanted to understand her mindset, why she was doing this, what she was planning next. It hit me that she'd been planning this for months, maybe longer. She played the perfect wife, the caring partner, while secretly plotting her escape. I also found out she'd been lying to her friends and family, spinning some story about needing a fresh start or dealing with stress. She painted herself as the victim, while behind the scenes she was scheming to take everything from me. The next morning I woke up with a plan. I knew I had to confront her again, but this time with backup, my lawyer, the pie, and some friends I trusted. I arranged to meet her at our house, but I wasn't going to give her the upper hand. I wanted her to see I was serious. When she arrived, she was her usual bitchy self, trying to act like she'd done nothing wrong. I told her I knew about the legal papers, the transfers, the money she'd been hiding. I pulled out the court orders I'd gotten to freeze her assets. Her face turned white for a second, then she snapped. "You're crazy," she spat. "You can't stop me. I have everything covered." I looked her dead in the eyes and told her I had the law on my side now, and I was not going to let her steal my house, my inheritance, or ruin my life. She tried to deny everything, but I had proof, screenshots, legal documents, the pie's reports. She screamed at me, calling me controlling and paranoid, but I wasn't backing down. I told her she was a liar and a thief, and I was going to make sure she paid for this. She left the house that day furious, but I felt a strange sense of relief. I had taken the first real step to stop her. It was terrifying, knowing she might try to fight back even harder, but I also knew I couldn't let her get away with it. I'd been betrayed in the worst way, but I was finally fighting back. I wasn't going to let her destroy everything I'd built. I looked at the legal papers and the evidence I'd collected and realized that I was finally in control of the situation, at least for now. I had to stay vigilant, but I was determined to see this through and make sure she didn't walk away with my house or my inheritance. I owed myself that much. The days that followed were a whirlwind. Every time I thought I had a handle on things, something new came up. Another lie, another attempt by her to manipulate the situation. Sarah, true to her bitchy, entitled nature, refused to accept that I was serious about fighting her. She started playing the victim, crying to her friends and even trying to gaslight me again, insisting I was overreacting and that she loved me, that this was all just a misunderstanding. But I knew better. I had the legal orders, the evidence, and the truth. Still, her stubbornness and her manipulative lies made it clear she wasn't going down without a fight. I went full force with my legal team. We filed for full custody of the house and the inheritance, and I pushed for an emergency hearing to stop any further transfers. Meanwhile, I also took steps to protect my finances. I changed all my passwords, froze my credit, and alerted the bank about the situation. I couldn't let her drain my accounts or sneak off with money while I was distracted. The more I uncovered, the more I realized how deep her plans went. She'd been setting up her escape for months, maybe even longer, and I was just catching on. One morning, I woke up to a notification from my lawyer. Sarah had attempted to file new documents in court, claiming I was abusive and unstable, trying to turn the judge against me. I was furious. She was such a master at twisting the truth, at making herself look innocent while she schemed behind the scenes. I knew I had to be careful, to stick to the facts, and to keep my composure. I didn't want her to win by playing the victim, but I also knew I couldn't let her manipulate the system. That day, I decided I needed to confront her one last time, this time face to face with everything laid out. I told her I wasn't going to let her get away with this. I showed her the court orders, the evidence of her schemes, and explained that I was prepared to fight her all the way. She looked at me with pure hatred, her bitchy smirk replaced by a sneer. She spat, "You're just jealous I'm leaving you," and stormed out, saying she'd see me in court. That moment, I felt a mix of relief and dread. I knew the battle wasn't over, but I also knew I had the law on my side now. She was cornered, and I was finally taking control of my own life again. Looking back, I realize I learned a lot from this nightmare. Trust is fragile, and sometimes the people you think you know best are capable of some truly dark shit. I also learned that you have to be ready to fight for what's yours, your home, your money, your dignity. I don't regret standing up to her, even if it's been the hardest thing I've ever done. My advice to anyone in a similar situation: don't ignore the signs, get legal help early, and don't let anyone strip away what you've worked for. Because in the end, if you don't fight for yourself, no one else will. The court date finally arrived, and I went into it knowing I had everything solid. All the evidence, the legal orders, the PI's reports, they were my armor. Sarah showed up with her lawyer, trying to look confident, but I could see the cracks in her facade. She was still trying to spin her lies, claiming I was mentally unstable, that I'd been abusive, and that she was the real victim. But I stood firm, presenting my case with clarity and calm. I knew the judge saw through her act. The proof was overwhelming. When the judge finally ruled, it was like a heavy weight lifted off my chest. The court granted the injunction to prevent her from transferring the house or claiming the inheritance. It also ordered her to stay away from the property and barred her from any further legal actions that would jeopardize my rights. The judge emphasized that any attempt to defraud or manipulate the legal process would be met with severe penalties. I felt a sense of relief I hadn't experienced in months, knowing I had won that battle. After the ruling, Sarah's demeanor changed. She was furious, but there was a defeated edge to her anger now. She realized her plans were unraveling and she couldn't do anything about it. She tried to threaten me, saying she'd ruin me, but I knew better. I'd already taken steps to secure my finances, protect my home, and rebuild my life. I moved out of the house shortly after, not because I wanted to abandon it, but because I couldn't live under the same roof as someone so dishonest and manipulative. I rented a place nearby and started the long process of healing. The aftermath was brutal. I lost a lot: my marriage, my sense of security, and the trust I once had in Sarah. But I gained clarity. I realized I had been blind for so long, trusting someone who was only out for herself. I also learned that sometimes you have to fight hard and play dirty if you want to keep what's yours. It's not about revenge, but about protecting your life and your dignity. Looking back, I feel a strange mix of anger, sadness, and relief. Anger at how she betrayed me, sadness for what we lost, but relief that I finally took control. I'm still trying to put the pieces back together, but I know I'm better off without her. The experience has made me more cautious, more resilient. I hope anyone reading this understands. Don't ignore the warning signs. If someone is scheming behind your back, you have to be ready to fight for what's rightfully yours. Trust is precious, but once broken, it's nearly impossible to fix. So, stay vigilant, protect yourself, and never let anyone steal your peace.